Okay, today is going to be part one of the modeling car demo, and the first part of this is going to be how to prepare your orthographic reference images, which are super important for this kind of modeling process. So definitely not a step in the process to overlook or anything like that. Apologize for the sound today. I don't have access to my microphone, so I'm competing with my computer noise with the internal microphone there. So to start off, I'm going to go to the D2L, and then you can use your own images if you want to use your own images here, but under the D2L, under Demo Resources, I have this car orthographic image, and I'm just going to kind of show how to prepare your image and kind of get it ready to go in Maya, and then I'll also show how to import it into Maya and just kind of get your scene ready to go for modeling. So I'm going to find this image, or you can find your own that's kind of like this, and I'll download the image. And for this, I'm just going to throw it onto my desktop for now just so I can find it easily. And leave it here. So now open up Photoshop, and you can also use other photo editing software, but what I have here is Photoshop. And I can just go to File, Open, and on my desktop find the Aventador JPEG. Okay, so the goal here is I have the side view, the front view, the back view, and the top view. And for something like a car, having all four of these images is really useful. I would say for any kind of vehicle, I would say 3 images is super important to have at least here. So it's I highly recommend. The side view is kind of just like not even optional, you know, like the side view is imperative here. And then you'll kind of see through the modeling process here how I'll use all 3 of these other images here. But if I were to only have 2 images, it would probably be either the front and the side, or the top and the side. But again, I go back and forth between all these a lot here. So in order to prepare these, I need to kind of line some of these up in a row. And the ones that are important to have in a row are the side, the front, and the back. And the top view, you know, it's going to get projected over top. So it's important that it's the same scale as the other ones. But in terms of does it need to line up exactly? Not necessarily, because we're going to line it up to be symmetrical in Maya rather than lining it up against these. And that'll become clear as I kind of demonstrate this. So the first thing I'm going to do is we have the rulers here. And if you don't see these rulers in Photoshop, you can go under, I believe it's under View and Rulers right there to bring it up. And this image is already lined up very well, but I just want to show that I can drag these rulers to compare, and this is really helpful here to kind of see how things are comparing. So I can see the side view and the front view are lining up quite nicely. And the first thing I want to do is I want to take this back view and just line it up so that it goes on top of the front view. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer. So to do that, you can press Command J on your keyboard if you're on a Mac, or you can go to right click and then duplicate layer, and then just press OK. And I'll name this back because I'm going to move the back view. And so I want to crop out everything other than the back view. So there's a bunch of different ways to do that, but the way I'll do that here is I'm going to use this rectangular Marquee tool, shortcut M, and you can see here, this Marquee tool lets you just drag and make a selection of an area. When the dotted line starts to kind of dance like that, that means that a selection has been made. And so let me just turn off this back layer so we can kind of see what this is doing. So once that selection is made, you can press delete and you can delete out a section. I'll edit undo that. Conversely, I can just invert the selection. So I can go to select and then inverse the selection. And now you'll see there's a dotted line that appears around the outer image. And so now all this area is selected, and then this little inner area right here is not selected. So now if I press delete, it'll delete everything other than that selection. And then finally, to kind of get rid of that dotted line, you can press Command D, or you can go up to Select and then deselect right there, and that's how you get rid of that dotted line. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make that selection. I'm going to invert it. So select inverse. You can also press that shortcut and delete. And then I'll press Command D or select, deselect to get that deselected. And so now what I'm going to do is with this back layer, I'm just going to take the opacity down a little bit and maybe to 50%. And I'll press this control, which is V, the move tool, and I'm going to hold down shift and just drag it up here, if it'll let me. Oops, my computer's going a little slow. And here I can also use the arrow buttons to kind of nudge it. And so you can see here I just got it overlaid on top of the front image there. And so once I see that it's overlaid correctly, I'll just take the opacity up to 100%. And so now I have this back layer lined up right there. And this will become clear in a minute why I want that to be lined up there. So this thing's all prepared. And I'm just going to name this. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Oh, that's okay. So save it as a PSD, just all of it at once here. This is going to be kind of like the base. So just went to File Save, saved it as a Aventador 1 PSD, just keep it on my desktop for now, for this demo. So now what I want to do is I want to export 4 JPEGs or 4 images out of this that I can import into Maya. So press C on your keyboard or use this crop tool right here. And I'm first going to crop out the top view. And so you just make a selection just by dragging and select. And you can drag these handles to get the scale of it the way you want. And we don't really need to be exact with this. It's just, you know, crop it out so that it's visible. And so I have the top view cropped out. So I'm going to do File. I'm on a newer version of Photoshop. So if you're on an older version of Photoshop, you'll probably just still go to File, Save As. But I'm going to save this as a JPEG. And so I'm going to do Save a Copy. So that's kind of something new in 2021 here. And I'm going to change the format down here to a JPEG. Then I'm going to call this top. And I'm going to name it top, front, side, back, etc. here as I'm exporting these. So again, I'm just going to do this on the desktop. Do File, Save As. That's all good. And so now I'll edit undo to undo that crop. And remember, my other 3 images are all on this top plane up here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to crop this and bring this up, crop that in. And this brings me to kind of the most important part of preparing your images, or one of the most important parts of preparing your images in the orthographic view, which is with the front, the back, and the sides, you'll always want to keep the vertical scale the same between those. And so just keep them the same height as each other so that these proportions stay the same. So when I bring them into Maya and I just bring them into the scene, these will just kind of line up naturally. So I'll make this crop. And I'm just going to save my PSD. And now I'm going to just crop this a few times and then export out a few different versions. So first I'm going to export out the side view. So do not drag the top or the bottom sliders, only drag the left and the right sliders from here on out, because we want to keep that vertical scale the same. So here's my, and again I just use the crop tool right there. And so here I'm going to save a copy. This is going to be my side view. I'll make it a JPEG. I'll edit undo to bring it back. And here I'm just going to crop in this way, grabbing the left handle. And so this will be the back view, so I'll go File, Save a Copy. And so that was that layer that I had made before. I'll turn off that layer. Now we have the front view, and we can see that they're lined up pretty well here. So now I'll just go to File, Save a Copy, and I'm going to save the front view. Give that a JPEG, just so it takes up a little less space when we're working on it. And we have our images. So closing out Photoshop, and we're going to go into My here, bring these images in, and I'll show you how to place them. So, and there's a few steps here, and I'll kind of show a few tips here to kind of get it set up the best way possible. So open up Maya, and to start off, I'm going to do the 3 steps to create a new project. So I'll go to File, Set Project, and I'm going to make a new folder here by pressing the yellow Create New Folder button. I'll call this car. Oops. And this car demo. And have it selected blue right there and press Set. Default workspace. And then next I'll do step 2, File Project Window. Press Accept. Then finally, I'll go to File, step 3, I'll go to File, Save Scene As, make sure that's in the right place, call this car, okay. And so now those 3 steps I just showed there, I created this project folder. If I double click, the folder's populated. So the first step created this mel file, and then the second step created all these other folders right here. And then the third step is I saved a scene, which can be found right there. And so with this project folder open, I'm going to open up my source images and drag these 4 orthographic views that I made. Oops. Drag those 4 images that we made, the front, back, side, and top, into there. And so those are now in my source images folder of this project. And so what I want to do now is press spacebar or press this button right here, and I'm going to import the images in. So with the top view, I'm going to start there. So I'll go to View, Image Plane, Import Image. So it's that right there, View, Image Plane, Import Image. I'll go to the top view, import that. Then I'm going to go to the front view, and I'm going to do the same thing. You can tell that's the front view, it says front right there. And then I'll do the same thing for the side view. You can also, instead of going to View, Image Plane, Import, you can also just, FYI, you can press this button right here. It's this greenish blue box over the grid. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th button from the left on each view window. And so you can just click that and do the same thing. So side view. And I'm going to navigate to the rear view and import the back image there. And the way I do that is I'm going to do it from this viewport right here, is I'll go to Panels, Orthographic, New, and then find Back. I'll leave that up just for a moment. So it's Panels, Orthographic, New, and then Back. That's how I switch it from the front view to the back. You can also switch the side view from the left to the right, doing this kind of similar control, or you can kind of look at it from the bottom view. So there's a few things you can do there, but I'm going to get the back view. And same thing as before, View, Image Plane, Import Image. Get the back image. And usually for me, the back image shows way back there. So with the back image, so if we look in the perspective view, all the other images kind of imported in the center, which is great, but that back image imported way back in the distance there. So what you can do to fix that is actually really easy. Make sure that back image is selected back there. You can also name these as they come in, which is probably a good idea. So that's the this is the top view. So I'll just name it in my outliner. Top, front, side, and then just through the process of elimination, that's the back one. And so with the outliner, and again, you find the outliner by going to Windows, Outliner, right there. I'll select the back, and then I'll go up to this XYZ tab at the top. If you don't see it, click this little tab that's right to the right of the render icons right there. So it's that little tab right there. And I'll just type, let's see, it looks like this is the Z-axis that I want zeroed out, so I'll do 0, return, and that'll punch the image right into the center of the grid. And so that works for any of these three X, Y, and Z axes. Just keep an eye on that XYZ indicator there, and if you type 0 and return on each of those, any object or vertex or face, whatever you have selected, will jump to the center of your scene, which is great. So I'll just press W and drag that back a little bit. Actually, sorry, I got ahead of myself there. So the first thing I want to do is looking at this, these group of images here. Is the top view, these other views look good. The side view is lined up, the front view is lined up, and I remember the back view is lined up. And so to get the top view lined up with everything else, I'll press E on the keyboard, or get this rotate control right here. And if you hold down J and rotate, it'll snap to place. So normally when you rotate, it's just kind of going like that. But if you hold down J and then start rotating, so hold down J first and then click to rotate, it'll snap into place, which will be helpful to line things up. I'll scale this all up. Let's get this a bit larger. And that's looking good. So now I need to worry about kind of two more major things here, which is making sure everything's centered on the grid from the top and the front views, and then kind of pull things out of the way. It looks like these are lined up pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and move the side view out of our way here. So looking at this from the front view, I'll just drag this to the left and just kind of push it out of the way some. And I'll do the same for the front and rear, and down here for the top view. So I still need to center these a little bit. And so the best way to do that, and again, I just move the side view to the left. If I'm looking at it from the front, I move the top view down, and then the front and the back, I've moved them both backwards. And the reason I made sure to do it in those directions is so that when I create a model, I'll just create any primitive shape here, we want it to show on top of the image no matter which view you're in. And so for this back view, I'm going to switch this back to the front view. So I'll go to Panels, Orthographic, and then switch it to front. And you can see that the model is showing up in front of each of these images. And if the model is showing up behind the images, let's just say I positioned that side view to be to the right there, and you can see in this view that you can't see your model. Just select your orthographic views and just drag them until in the right direction, I should say, until the model shows up front. So I'm just going to delete that model. And so there are two more steps. First step is I want to make sure that the front, the back, and the top are centered along the, I guess it's the, which axis is it? The Z axis here. Or the X, or mirrored across the X here. And so what I mean by that, what I'm jabbering about here, is that I want the center of the card to go down the center line of the grid. And so, and that'll become clear as we model. So for the top view, I'm just going to drag this until the center line of the car matches the center of the grid. It doesn't need to be scientifically perfect, just get it as close as you can. And again, I'm pressing spacebar to move between these. So I just hover my cursor above whichever view I want. So now I'm over the perspective. Press spacebar, and now I can go to the side, spacebar, you know, so that's kind of how I'm navigating between these. So I'll select the now I'm at the front view. And I select the front image. That looks lined up pretty nicely. And then I'm going to switch to the back view, so orthographic, and then go to back. Right there, panels orthographic back. And this one needs a slight adjustment. Oops, select the wrong thing. Make sure the back image is selected. Just get that centered along the grid. And we're in good shape. So, almost there. One thing I'm going to do here is I'm also, so a step that I failed to mention before is you may want to change the opacity on these so that you can see the model standing over them a little bit better. And so you can select each image one by one, and so select the image and then go to the attribute editor. And then under the attribute editor, the third slider called the alpha gain, at 1 is at 100% opacity, at 0 is at 0% opacity. So I'll just drag it to be at like, 0.3, something like that. And I'm going to do that for each of these, and that'll just help make it easier to see what I'm doing in this demonstration. And yeah, it might be helpful for you all. And I'm not going to use the rear view on this right away, so I'm just going to turn off the opacity on that for now. And so I have the side there, the top view there, and then the back view I turned the opacity off on it, so all the way down to 0. And then the front view I have kind of similar to the others that are on 0.3. Doesn't need to be anything exact there. So this is all set up. I'm going to switch this back to the front view down here. And again, I just went to panels, orthographic, and then I found front. And so the last step here is I'm going to take all these and I'm going to add them to a display layer. So the way to add these to a display layer is first I'll select all these layers that we made. And then I'll go to the channel box layer editor. That'll be over, it should be over here to the right if you're using the Maya Classic view. If you don't see that, the channel box layer editor, you just go to Windows, General Editors, Channel Box Layer Editor, and you can find this window there. And so what this is going to be like is a display layer in Photoshop. And so with the 3 images selected, or the 4 images selected, sorry, under the display layer, not the animation tab, but the display tab, I'll go to layers and then create layer from selected. So we're going to create a display layer out of these. So again, I just went to layers, create layer from selected right there. And we have a new display layer here. If I turn on the V for visibility button, we can hide them or bring them back. I can rename the layer here by double clicking. I'll call this rough. And then finally, over here we have this blank box. And if I click it once, these will all go to wireframe. But then if I click it again, it'll go to R for reference. And what that does is it makes it so that these objects aren't selectable anymore, which can be really great when we're modeling, because a lot of the times I'll be modeling and I'll select one of these by mistake. And, it's just an extra thing to get in the way. So, and if you want to make any changes to that, you can just click this again until the R goes blank. And now I can make adjustments to these reference images again. And so these, this display layer is really useful, and it comes in handy a lot. And so now our scene's ready to go and we're ready to model.